Today, we're taking a look at IKEA's cheapest smart remotes yet. Actually, they're probably this cheapest on the market, priced at just £3 and £4, and how they work with AppleHome via Matter. And I'll say this up front, one of these works far better than anyone has any right to expect at this price. The other one, honestly, it does not. I've used IKEA a lot and their smart home devices, and over the years, the experience has always been mixed. Some have been genuinely solid and dependable, others have felt unfinished or limited by the platform they were built on. IKEA has never lacked ambition in the smart home space. However, execution, though, has not always matched intent. With its newer Matter-enabled accessories, IKEA is trying to clearly reset that perception. And on paper, these remotes, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce the names, look like part of that reset. The two versions, a dual button model priced at £3 designed for simple actions inside Apple Home, and a scroll wheel version priced at £4, promising finer control like dimming lights or adjusting speakers. They look similar, they cost almost nothing, but once you start using them, they could not be more different. So let's dive into the design and the features. At first glance, both models look exactly like what you would expect from IKEA. The design is minimal, neutral, and functional, with a matte white finish. There's no attempt to make these look premium. Focus here is affordability. In the hand, both remotes initially feel more solid than their price suggests. The plastic does not creak, it does not feel brittle, and there's a reassuring weight that gives the impression of durability. The two-button version is the simpler of the two. Two clearly separated buttons that are easy to identify by touch alone, making it ideal for wall mounting or bedside use. The scroll wheel version replaces one of those buttons with a rotating wheel intended for final control, such as dimming lights or adjusting volume. On paper, that sounds like a more capable option. In reality, this is where the compromises start to show, especially when we talk about Apple Home and how it's exposed, which I'll talk about later. Both models are battery powered and don't come with any batteries. And the battery compartment is easy to access. Nothing feels fragile here, which is good. You also get a magnet with 3M stickers to attach it to a surface or a wall. It's also worth mentioning that IKEA offers both versions in a 3-pack available in different colors. This is a nice touch if you want to color code rooms or avoid having identical white remotes everywhere. At this price, buying multiple remotes actually makes sense, and the pack is only £12. Along with these, I got a number of the new IKEA Matter devices, including the Matter smart plug with energy monitoring, and reviews for these and this will be landing soon. So don't forget to subscribe and be notified when these land on the channel, and also follow us on our social media platforms on X, Facebook, and Instagram for more Apple Home news. Setup is very straightforward, especially if you already use Apple Home or IKEA smart products. Both remotes can be paired straight into Apple Home via Matter without relying on the IKEA hub, and that is a big improvement over previous generations. One important thing to note is that to use these remotes via Matter in Apple Home, you do need a thread-boarded router and a Matter controller in your home. In practical terms, this means a Apple TV 4K, a newer HomePod, or the original HomePod Mini. These devices act as a bridge between the Thread network and Apple Home, allowing Matter accessories to communicate. In terms of pairing, both versions paired quickly and without any issues whatsoever. Both paired in Apple Home almost immediately and completed setup in a couple of minutes. I then jumped in to configure the remote with my devices in the living room. Now let's look at the performance and day-to-day use after using these for about a week. Both, as I've already said, are exposed to Apple Home via Matter and can be used as input devices for scenes and for controlling other devices in your home. Response times have been excellent. Matter support has been solid with no issues of the remotes failing to respond in Apple Home. No delays, no missed actions. They just work from a software perspective. But it's really important at this stage, I split the review to address the difference in performance between the two from a hardware perspective. So let's start with the dual button version. This one performs exactly as expected and actually more flexible than it first appears. Each button exposes 3 actions in Apple Home: single press, double press, and long press. In my living room setup, I configured it like this. A single press turned the lights on to 100%. A double press opened and closed the blinds, and a long press set the lights to 50%. That's a lot of control for a very simple and, being completely honest, a very cheap device. You could use any of the button configurations to trigger scenes, and you can get really creative. Button presses register consistently, and while the buttons do make a noticeable click sound, that also gives you confirmation that action has been triggered. Now on to the scroll wheel version, and this is where things are completely different. The first issue is the wheel itself. It's simply too slippery. Most of the time, your finger slides around the plastic surface without the wheel actually moving. To get reliable rotation, it almost feels like you're licking your fingers to turn a page in a book. After playing with it for a couple of days, I thought it was a faulty device. However, I've seen this complaint with other reviews. This is clearly a design issue rather than a faulty unit. Beyond the grip, the wheel also feels mechanically awkward. The plastic flexes in ways you do not expect it, and the balance between friction, finger movement, and force feels really off. The entire experience ends up feeling more like a cheap knockoff iPod. You can also press the scroll wheel button softly and hear a audible click, and nothing happens. Only firmer presses at the center of the button reliably register actions. The same behavior applies to the bottom button used for switching devices. I want to be clear, this is an hardware issue and not misclicks in AppleHome. This is particularly frustrating because the non-scroll wheel version does not suffer from any of these issues. I feel the issue undermines, in my opinion, the confidence in daily use. But it does not stop there. There's a third limitation. On paper, the scroll wheel should be the standout, and with 9 separate buttons exposed to AppleHome, you think it would be. However, the scroll wheel itself is not exposed in AppleHome. This is because, and to be fair, Matter does not currently support this type of input. Additionally, 9 buttons are exposed. I've only been able to use 3 of them, and you can cycle through them using the button. You have a single press, a double press, and a long press. It's hard to blame IKEA for the scroll wheel not being exposed, but it's worth calling it out, as you could buy this thinking you were able to use a scroll wheel and you'll be disappointed. In my opinion, this severely limits its usefulness in AppleHome. It's worth noting, when paired with the IKEA Hub, the scroll wheel does work for dimming lights and adjusting volume, but as I've explained with the hardware issues, it does become a bit unusable. But if your focus is AppleHome, this limitation on the device as a whole is hard to ignore. So my summary and final thoughts. IKEA has positioned its smart home products around affordability and accessibility, and these two remotes fit that perfectly. From a design perspective, the dual button model build quality is about what you'd expect at this price. The plastic housing feels solid, nothing rattles, and they do not feel disposable. They are built to a cost, but not poorly assembled. Comparing it to, say, the Philips Hue or other devices, the build quality, in my opinion, is on par, and they're a lot more expensive. For the price point, the software performance is genuinely impressive. Response times are fast, Matter support has been reliable, and once paired, both remotes behave consistently in AppleHome, aside from the issues of the scroll wheel from a hardware perspective. That said, cheap prices still mean compromises, and these compromises are very obvious in the scroll wheel version. The dual button version is a clear recommendation, and I can't believe how well it performs for just £3. It's reliable, flexible, easy setup, offers excellent value for money. The multi-press support adds far more control than you would expect at £3. Can I say it again? This is £3. A Matter AppleHome remote that is £3. It literally blows the competition out of the water. However, the scroll wheel version is harder to recommend, and I will not be using this in my setup going forward. The wheel is slippery, mechanically awkward, prone to misclicks, and its main feature is not supported in AppleHome, albeit that is not an IKEA issue. Overall, these remotes show that IKEA is moving in the right direction with its Matter-enabled accessories. The execution is not perfect, but at the price, the dual button model in particular makes a strong case as a simple, no-nonsense smart home controller. So that's a wrap on this video, and if you have any thoughts or any questions about these remotes, leave it in the comment section below, and if I know the answer, I will get back to you. If you've enjoyed the video, then it'd be greatly appreciated if you give it a thumbs up, and also subscribe to the channel, as it really helps support the work that goes into these videos. As mentioned, I will be releasing further reviews on the new Matter IKEA range, so don't forget to check back for those. You can also check more videos on the channel, if you want to keep up to date with everything going on in Apple Home, make sure you're following us on our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram at Follow Home Kit. Thanks very much. I'll speak to you soon.